Welcome to Soul Soldier Speaks, where we honor the warrior within each of us on life's battlefield. I'm your host, Lindsay Taylor. Here we stand with those on the front lines of their own lives, those battling suicidal thoughts, addiction, grief, and life's hardest challenges. We honor the loved ones standing beside those struggling and remember those we've lost. Each episode, we delve into raw, unfiltered conversations and stories of people who faced the darkest of nights and emerged with healing, transformation, and hope. Together, we will navigate the battlefield, focusing on the battles that save and restore. This podcast is more than stories. It's a rallying cry, an army of soul soldiers reclaiming the light one story at a time. Together, we rise. Welcome back to the Soul Soldier Speaks podcast, guys. Gosh, I took the whole summer off. There has not been a podcast released since June. I found out we do this, and I have this studio in my house, that doing this with the kids home is not possible. You would hear screaming in the background. So I'm back, and I'm super excited for the kickoff because I actually connected with Nate after his wife helped me with my book launch, Amanda. They are an amazing couple. I mean, seriously, not just helped me, she ran the whole thing, and it would have not been possible without her. And so we connected and talked about, Nate and her have a story. And so I've been wanting to have him on since May, but finally getting him here July.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So welcome, Nate, to the Soul Soldier Speaks podcast.
I appreciate being here. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Yes,
so I'm going to start with just reading a little bit about you, but then I want you to tell us about you. But I wanted to read a little bit about your bio. I thought it was so interesting. First of all, I want to say this. I was thinking this morning as I was prepping that I will never run out of guests on this podcast because we all face battles. Yes, every single one of us. That's part of being human. But then I thought even a step further from that, I would never run out of guests who have struggled with addiction or known someone who has. Mm-hmm. Like it is so prevalent that I will never run out of guests, even just for that specific battle.
Yes, ma'am.
So it just really hit me when I was prepping this morning. So after 17 years of walking the road of recovery,
yes, ma'am.
Nate encountered the life-changing power of Jesus, and it completely transformed his life. Now he's passionate about helping others experience that same freedom. He believes in restoration, in renewed hearts, and in the power of God to completely rewrite someone's story. He's currently in the beginning stages of launching his Way Redemption Ranch, which I can't wait to get into, a Christ-centered recovery ranch that will be a place of hope and healing for those battling addiction. His heart is to lead people into freedom, purpose, and the love of Jesus.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I'm writing a book all about freedom and God being at the center of that right now. So I read your bio and I was like, wow, so timely with all of this. So I just want to hear, first and foremost, I love to start this podcast with, who is Nate? Tell us a little bit about Nate.
Man, I am just an imperfect person that the perfect God loves, man. Really, that's it. So, I mean, if you ask me, I'm just Nate, just nothing special. You ask everyone else, it's like, hey, you got a story, tell it. I'm like, okay. Even talking to Amanda about this whole thing and just how strategic the enemy has been to try to keep my story quiet within myself. Because I'm my worst critic. I am my own worst enemy. I am the first one to disqualify myself. And I've always struggled walking into a room as like, oh, I've already disqualified myself because who am I? So a little bit about me, 17 years in May 30th was, which is crazy to be like on the side where like I'm been sober longer than I was using, which is like still so crazy to me. But even when I was like thinking about how I was going to share my stories, it's like watching a really terrible movie in my head about someone that but that was my wife. Like that's just who I was as a person. It goes down to the disqualification, right? Like who I was like somehow as such a terrible person in myself. Like Nate in himself there's nothing good in me except what you see that Christ has transformed in me. So, and really like I've never strayed from the realization that aside from Christ, there's no good in me. Like my logic and reasoning got me overdosed twice in 10 plus years of addiction. The things that I've experienced in my life, like growing up, and really, it was kind of like a twofold thing. I did as a young kid, like we never went without. God was not anywhere near our home. My mom had faith because my grandfather, her dad he was a deacon. He was like the man that at their church in North Carolina. Like he was very much so a Bible believing, Jesus loving person. And in agriculture, he's a hog farmer. He's a, soybean corn farmer, like grew up like in the fields, and really like in touch with creation, and trained her up in the way. She left the house. Like we're the only part of both of our side of our family in Arizona. Like she left everything in her little 73 Volkswagen and drove across the country and landed in California, and from California to Phoenix, Arizona for work. And that's where we grew up, so I tell people all the time, I'm a country boy that grew up in the middle of this metropolitan area, really. So, but we never went without, like needs were met, but the home life there was always tension, and I couldn't figure out why. But with my dad and I, it was kind of crazy because it was my brother and myself at the house, and it was my mom and my dad, and it always felt like there was a fraction, right? So it was my brother and my dad kind of versus my mom and myself is what it felt like, as not being able to articulate it as a kid. And it was just a weird dynamic growing up. I was always eggshells, didn't know when the bottom was going to fall out, so me being as the firstborn in the nuclear family, because I have a half brother and half sister from my dad from a previous marriage. And I felt like I was like the lost child, but like the kid that had to, I was always mitigating the waves. I was trying to, between my brother, and because my brother was the one that was causing the friction, and I felt like I was like the liaison for him, and I was trying to mute the waves he was causing, but still trying to like figure out, like, Dad, like, why is my relationship different than what I see you and my brother, and fast forward all that. He used to, grew up in Little League. He pushed really hard, like, you need to play sports. And had I continued playing sports, like I was trying to get drafted into Ahwatukee Little League at 8, but you had to be 11. So like as a catcher, so like had I kept playing sports, but he pushed so hard, like me being defiant, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do sports then. So that current of rebellion was like my whole life, and it only got worse as I got older. But he umpired Little League, and when it was just it was a random game on a random day, and he collapsed in the middle of the field, and they rushed him to the emergency room, and they found out that he had a softball-sized tumor wrapped around his aorta, and he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. So like me being, probably 13, prior to that, I was like hanging around the wrong crew. So I started smoking weed and drinking at like 12. I say 12, it's probably like 11, but it was about 12. So I was already dabbling with this counterculture, which I kind of just identified with, because it was like I didn't fit in my own family. So like I'm going to stick with like, the outcast side. I like empathize with them and sided with the defiant side. And so I was dabbling, and then once he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, then it was kind of like, okay, God, if you exist, like this is what you do. I don't want any part of you. So it was like middle fingers to the sky. At that point, it was like, this is what you do. Not a part of it. So then, that whole thing, that just anger at God, but I didn't even know who God was, but I knew like, okay, if you exist, I don't want any part of you. And this whole thing, watching the decline in that was wild. Cause like he was a husky fellow when we were growing up, and all of a sudden it was like fast forward 8 months and he was 160 pounds, no hair. He was going through chemo, heavily medicated, and which made drugs really easy to access, because if I wanted liquid morphine, it was in the cabinet, or whatever. That light bulb switched on a little bit later, but back in I'm going to date myself here because, it's who I am, but we had a family computer, the one that sits in the living room, everyone's like,
Macintosh in the windows.
Yes, absolutely. And I told some young people that, and they looked at me crazy. I'm like, yes, that's what we did. There was no mobile computers back then. It was a big tower and a giant monitor, and my dad was always on it. And one day I was on there doing something, I think it was for school, and I was typing out something, and I like lost the file in the computer, and I was trying to find it, and I found in like, it was hidden in folders and folders and folders, this like dissertation, and it was 13 pages long, size 12, Times New Roman font. Like I can see it in my head, and it was this 13-page document basically outlining everything ever bad to happen was because of my birth. I was born, and that because I was born, everything in my dad's life fell apart. So it was like this 13 years of like not understanding why things were different and finding out like why, how he felt. And it was just like, it was like a slow motion train wreck that you just couldn't look away from. And I couldn't stop reading it. I told myself like, turn it off, but I couldn't. I read every page and it was like, wow. So that was from that moment on was like, if my own dad doesn't want me, you know, screw everything. I'm going to live life my way. Like it was like coping with like rejection at like a molecular level, but also like the white picket fence, the house, the car, the 2.5 kids. Like none of that, like life wasn't enough. So I'm like, I'm going to live it on my own terms. So immediately that was like, you put like, hey, don't touch the stove. It's hot. Like I'd put my face to it. I'm staring you in the eye and put my face to the stove. And it was like, you're not going to tell me what to do. So that started the whole run. So I just, every time there was liquor, I was drinking. Every time there was weed, I was smoking. Every time there was cigarettes, it was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to live this life my way. And that started just years of running. Like I was like, you know, I was 100% okay with dying before I was 21. Like, I don't want any part of this. Like, live fast, die young. That was like the whole motto then anyway, right? Like, party, do what you want. You know, now on the other side of that, you know, like do what you want, however you want to do it is like the doctrine of the Satanic Bible, like do what thou wilt.
Right.
Like, so like in hindsight, seeing like even from then, like the enemy was trying to undercut who I was, what I identified as, how I labeled myself, like taint the voice that speaks over myself every day. Right. So that was it, man. I running and gunning and fast forward, I got into the rave scene and I'm a highly addictive personality, right? Like I'm all in, like, this is awesome. Like I drank the first time. And I was like, this is incredible. I like did drugs the first time. I took ecstasy for the first time. Like, this is fantastic. I'm going to do this forever. You know, it's just, there's no fader bar in my brain. This is a switch. It's either on or it's off. And I've done that with everything. Like, every part of it. BMX when I was a kid, you know, like riding bikes, like that adrenaline rush, like I'm going to push things to the limits. Like it was driving fast, you know, anything to like feel something. Sure. I was doing it. So, it was just wild. So it was this switch that flipped. It was like, but it was like someone had flipped this breaker and locked it. Like it was like, I wasn't going back. I didn't want any part. Like I was going to stay in this mindset forever until it was just done, until I faded into the black is what I thought. Right. Like, this afterlife, that's all a bunch of like, and then I started hanging around with like people who had quantum physical explanations for things and this like metaphysical stuff and like really these crazy philosophic systems. And I had like adopted all of like this crazy idea of who and what God was, if he existed, if he didn't, like, you know, whatever. And that was it. So I got into the rave scene and that was like, I took my first ecstasy. That was like a random Thursday night. And it was like Saturday night. I was at the rave, every rave until I overdosed. Like I didn't miss one. Like I was like violently ill still at the party because like that's where most of my friends were.
Wow.
So it was just wild. So for me, it was just really, my whole life was spent like trying to figure out who I was, you know, and, you know, we'll get into like the healing side of my dad and stuff, but
because then you lost him, right?
The crazy thing though, he was like a cat. He just recently passed away, 23.
Oh my gosh.
So this whole time he was alive. So it was like, now there's this I read this thing, this document, and now it was like, I was getting bigger than him. So then it was like, well, what are you going to do about it? It's like, I already know how you feel. I never once confronted him outside of in treatment, residential treatment the first time. So I really did a lot of like healing, like it was just wild. This is how broken I was as a person. It took me into rehab. I will never forget this lady's name. Her name was Bobby Schroet, and she drove me crazy. But what she did was challenge at a cellular level. Like I couldn't even tell you I was frustrated at you because I internalized everything. I was like this, I just stuffed it down. So like, I didn't even know I was like so lost in trying to like keep everything in that I didn't even know who I was. But she challenged, she's like, are you frustrated? I'm like, no. She's like, are you sure? Like, I'm not frustrated. Are you sure? I'm like, now you're starting to really make me mad. She's like,
now I'm frustrated.
Oh, wow, great. See, look how much that was. And I remember going through some of the step work, and I got to the point, it's like making a searching a fearless moral inventory. And then it was like making amends, like the next step, right? And all I could think about was like, okay, Dad, like it's time. But it was when I overdosed the first time. Yeah, I remember being at a rave, leaving the rave, going to this house that was like, I don't know, probably just under 3 miles from my house. I got there, like any other early Sunday morning, like you're just hanging out with the same people, and sitting there was, starting to, because they're all uppers, so you're cruising and you're partying, and then it was like, okay, well now it's time to like come back down. So then you use other substances to come back down, and so it was like we started drinking. So I'm drinking Jaeger and we're smoking weed or whatever, and this moment of realizing, if I go into deep detail, like we could be like a whole separate podcast for it, but right. God showed me the war that was going on over my soul in that moment. And it was through a series of events, and I left that house, not like asphyxiating. Like I was not being able to like catch I was like literally being pulled out of my soul from my body. And I was made aware of these like thousands of eager hands, like removing my soul down a spiral staircase. And I was like being pulled like away from like my soul. Like I was like the peripheral vision was like I was into tunnel vision, and I need to leave. So I just grabbed my keys. I left everything in this apartment, and I called my mom. She was the only safe person in the house at the time. So this whole course of me being strung out, God got a hold of her and brought her back to church. So this redemption story is like so many undercurrents of God just working his plan out in spite of me just actively setting the world on fire. Like he was like, hey, let me take these fires into forges, and I'm going to start I'm just watching me work. And God got a hold of her. She was the only saved person in the house at the time. And I called her. I'm like, Mom, am I God? She's like, what? I said, Mom, am I God? She's like, where are you? I said, I'm driving home. She had just left church, sat down at a Mexican food restaurant down the street from the church. She just took like $100 bill and threw it on the table and left without ever having food. And she drove home. And at this point, like I had somehow driving a stick shift truck, like asphyxiating, full overdose, 3 miles to my house, parked my truck, and I was inside my mom's house. And at this point I was like, I was down this tunnel. And she like walked through the front door, and it was like if you held your thumb in front of the sun, it was like the rays of light just broke through the darkness. And she grabbed a hold of me, and she's like, say it, Nathan, you love Jesus. You love Jesus. Say it, you love Jesus. And I said, I love Jesus. And it was like I could breathe for the first time. And it was like then immediately the fight was on. Like I like had to make conscious choices, like, okay, Jesus, you're real. No, he's not real. So I had to agree with like, this is crazy. I'm just start to asphyxiate again, start to get pulled back down. And it was this war in this process. And got it. After that, they called the fire department, EMTs, police officers showed up. Like I still have nerve damage in my hand because they handcuffed me. I pulled my hands out of the handcuffs. There was blood everywhere. It was chaos. And I was throwing 220-pound firemen across my living room because I was fighting these eager hands that were pulling my soul from my body. But there was like physical people that were like worried about my safety. Right. And by all intents and purposes, like the officer should have tased me multiple times because I was a physical threat to him. Like I was throwing them across the living room. Like they couldn't restrain me. Like my pants at one point were gone. I didn't even know what was going on. They handcuffed me. They finally handcuffed me again. Then they restrained me enough to get me onto the gurney for the EMT. The EMT puts like the 3-inch leather straps across my body, like the crazy person straps. And I get strapped to this thing and handcuffed to either side of this gurney. And they finally get a pulse ox on me. My heart rate's 236 beats a minute. And that was after I had already calmed down. So I'm like, they had already got me calm enough to get onto the gurney. I don't even know how fast my heart rate. It was like a machine gun. I could feel it in my throat. They got me to the hospital. The hospital had 7 armed guards waiting for me. Like it was a whole ordeal. So they got me into the hospital. It's crazy to laugh about it now, but get to the emergency room, and the on-call like doctor like comes in, and he goes, like, what'd you take? Who gave it to you? You know, and I'm protecting my plug at this point, right? Like I've been in the game long enough. Like I'm not gonna turn over. I mean, because we were like at a federal level trafficking at this point. Like I'm not gonna, like that's 25 years. Like all the people we're messing with were like, not. I mean, if I ratted, I was gonna be in trouble anyway. You know what I mean? Whatever. So he I cut all my clothes off me, and I can hear the sound of my shirt being taken off and dropped on the floor. And it was like, I just took a beach towel out of a pool and dropped it on the ground. It was like, splock. I had no body. Like there was no drip in the line. Like it was saline bag, IV to my arm. Like my body was taking fluids. Like I remember like seeing it. Like that's odd. In the middle of everything else, I'm like, oh, that's not a drip. Like being cognizant enough to like realize like that's not normal. Wow. And then he comes in and he goes, what'd you take? And I said, ecstasy, ketamine, something else. And he's like, if you're going to live, you're going to live. If you're going to die, you're going to die. There's nothing I can do but keep you hydrated because you're effing stupid. And turns around and walks out. And I would, at this point, brown out. I black out. I don't know what's like, if I'm already dead, like if this is what hell is. Like this perpetual like turmoil. It's crazy. So I like I pass out and I wake back up to being in a room, and there was in the ceiling, there was a cross like in the recessed ceiling. I wake up my eyes and the first thing I see is this cross illuminated in the false ceiling, like where the ceiling tiles are. It's like a cross. And I'm like, okay, Jesus, you're real. Like that was real. Everything I experienced was real. So it was like that started the whole process. And I, had to get into a treatment center. And in that treatment center, basically it was, I got to see the downside to the medical industry of the recovery world, where it was like, as long as insurance was paying, you're good. You got a bed. Yeah. And as soon as it was done, it was like 10 minutes later, they got the rejection notice. It was day 29. It was a 30-day program that kicked me out. And I was like, okay. I didn't even know what this means, but that's where I met Bobby Schroed, and she did some serious like healing. And in this process of being in this, it doesn't exist anymore. It's called Chandler Valley Hope. And God really used that time. Like my dad showed up then, and I got to like talk to him like, Dad, this is what I found. And it was one of, I think twice in my life that I saw him cry, and he broke down crying. He goes, you have to understand, I was so high. That is not who I am, and that's not what I feel. I would love to say that was the healing pivotal moment, but that was the moment that got me into like the next season. And so I got kicked out of rehab day 29. I didn't know what was up and down. I knew that I had 30 days clean, so that was cool. 29, and then my 30th. Not
enough when you've been through what you just went through.
So like day 30 was it was a Saturday. They kicked me out. Day 30 was Sunday, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to church with you, Mom. Like the same church that like my name was on the revolving prayer list for like ever. So like we kept him for 30 days, and at 30 days they went away, and my mom knew day 31 my name was back in it, right? So like everyone at the church, especially this core of ladies, knew who I was. They had been interceding for me, like hell or high water. They were praying for me. So like I showed up to church, and like, so I was like welcomed. Like, I'm like, this is crazy. Cause like all these like core group of ladies, like just grabbed a hold of me like, oh, Naz, welcome. I'm so glad to see you. And I had like, this is like where I was like sleeping with my feet in the pew, like during the pastor's sermon, just like sleeping, just disrespectful. Like if you ask Amanda, like, they had youth leader meetings about how to handle me when I showed up to church, because I would show up to church to sell stuff to kids, and it was crazy. I was not a good human being, but wild.
Oh man, if we can't laugh about some of this.
Absolutely. So in that whole thing, it was baptisms, and I was like, okay, sure, I don't know what that means, but I'll get baptized because I know Jesus is real. And there was a dude that had been trying to get a hold of my dad forever. His name was John Harris, and he was retired Assemblies of God missionary to Chile and Latin America. And if you look at the history books, his name's in there for planning the most churches in Latin America. Like he's a big real deal dude, but he was like ministering to my dad. And I got baptized in the water. I got dunked down, and I come out, and it was like I looked up across the auditorium, and my dad's running out the back. And I was like, John sees that, takes off after him, leads him to Christ in the lobby of the thing, because he saw Jesus get a hold of my life when I got baptized. So like that was the moment of salvation for him. So overdose 1 was the moment I was saved, salvation. Overdose 2 was surrender. So people ask, right? Like, hey, what's the surrender? Like salvation is like, I have two distinct moments where it was Jesus saved my life. but I didn't surrender it yet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Totally.
it was wild.
Those
so
are two different things.
yes,
for
ma'am.
Sure.
So yeah, I have two distinct moments of one was salvation and one was surrender. And in that whole process, God saved my dad, started the process of reconciliation and really just mending. And, in that I was clean. So I ended up being clean 74 days. And then I was at a house party with the same people that I had grown up with partying. And I was like, what's a beer? Like, I'll just drink a beer. So I drank a beer, and then I was like the weight of like, dude, I just blew 74 days. There goes my, like, that's the switch, right? Like the AA slogan, like, one's too many and 1,000's not enough. Like, I'm the physical embodiment of that. So I drank a beer and I was like, well, this is terrible. Like the weight of that, I was like, this is terrible. So I just drank another one and then another one. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop. And like the first time I drank was like a couple of beers. And then it was like the next night was double that. Then the next day, I'm back full out, like drinking ridiculous amounts of alcohol. I'm like, smoking weed again. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll go to the raves, but I won't take drugs. Right. So I'm still going to raves, sober raves, I'm wild. I mean, I probably saved the life of a bunch of different people, like just seeing like, hey, you're like epithymus is like, you're literally incinerating your body right now. Like, go get water, cooling people down. That's what MDMA does. It'll dysregulate your body and cause your body to overheat and essentially cook yourself from the inside out. So I was doing that, like helping people. Like, yeah, I'm like I'm giving back. I'm wild. Still doing all that thing. And I just ended up at a party one night and I ended up having to put gas. We were at a desert rave in the middle of nowhere. I could tell you exactly how to get there though, because it's ingrained in my brain. Like, mile markers and everything. It's crazy. Wow. But I was out in the middle of nowhere and this lady was like out of gas and she was so jacked up she couldn't even like figure out where her wallet was. I think she might have lost it. So I put gas in her car, but she was hustling pills. So she's like, well, I don't have any money. So like, I'll take, you can either like take these or I can, square up with you later. And I'm like, I was already drunk. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take them. So I took the pills and was at an apartment off of 60 in Alma School and took the pills, and that was like immediate. My body like just rejected the chemicals, full out overdose. Like, and I remember hearing God say, I got you out of the first one. It's your job to get you out of the second one.
Wow. Like
clear as day. And I'm like, same thing, asphyxiating, like can't breathe. I'm like, realize like, cause in this whole process, like I went from like not knowing who God was to like, this is what spiritual warfare is. I skipped the whole John 3:16 thing. Like I went straight from like heathen, pagan, conversion, spiritual warfare. Like here's Ephesians 6. And I was like, okay, this is crazy. So I had understood enough of the Bible to like, now I know how to fight.
Okay, explain that to somebody who doesn't understand the Bible.
So the Bible talks about the full armor of God, right? So like the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, the gospel, the shoes of the gospel of peace, and the sword of the spirit and the shield of faith. So sword of the spirit is the word of God. So I had learned enough of the word through study because it's the switch, right? Like as soon as I experienced the presence of God, it was like, this is everything. This is what I've been looking for. This was the missing element of my whole life. So every substance that I had ever chased, every adrenaline rush, all of it, it was like immediately filled. Like I experienced the tangible presence of God. So I had learned, how much can I learn? How much can I know? I want to know more. As that switch was flipped, I'm like, I couldn't get enough of who God was. And because I was like, he was so infinite and I knew nothing. And I'm like, God, I want to know more of who you are, God. And so Ephesians 6 talks about like, that's how we as Christians can engage with the essentially the war that's going on, right? Like you don't get to say you're a Christian and then put your head in the sand like an ostrich and not realize that you're in a spiritual fight every single day for attention, for distraction, for all of it. Like it is a constant war, and if you're not aware of that and you choose to just turn a blind eye, like you're already placating into you're falling into the enemy's trap. He's smart, man. Like the enemy strategically has been doing this from the beginning, right? If you look back into the garden, he came as a half truth and a hidden, as a half truth and a twisted lie, right? Like, did God say you couldn't do this? Like challenging, like, okay, Adam and Eve were communing with the Creator, and he was able to deceive enough to say, what God, like, don't you want to know, like, of knowledge of good and evil, where like they were already God conscious. And the Bible talks about like they never once calls them naked prior to the fall when they eat of the forbidden fruit, because they wore God's glory as clothes. Like God clothed them in glory, and then pursuit of, just like Satan, like he was Lucifer, he was the director of heaven's choir. Like he was the music man in heaven. And he's like, why does God get to have all this praise? Like, I want some. Like, I'm hosting this, like this, why don't I get some? So he took some. And that's what, that pride got him cast out of heaven. He took a third of the angels with him, right? That whole thing didn't change. His MO didn't change. He wants to subvert, because why does God get? And God's most precious thing is us, our soul, our spirit, right? So why not? That's the only way he can get back to God, is tricking God's people to agree with the lies that are spoke over them, and to agree with the subversion of the path that God has for them, which is, now you look at, you said from the beginning, right? You would never run out of someone who has dealt with addiction. Addiction, pharmakia, it's rebellion and witchcraft, right? Like, we're taking these substances and we're subverting the plan that's God's God. Like that's the only way he can get back at hurting God is getting us to hurt ourselves. Because when we're submitted to the living God, says he uses all things for good, right? Even the bad, the ugly, it doesn't matter what hand of cards of life you were dealt, God will use all things for good for his glory, in spite of what we've done, even to ourselves, and what we've agreed to. But if we can agree to turn our will over and just be flippant and just, I'm going to just do whatever I want, however I want to do it, we've already placated into the scheme that it is to agree with darkness, right? There's no gray area. As much as the culture we live in today is, hey, let me paint 1,000 shades of gray and see where you fall on the spectrum. You're either with him or you're not. Like, you're either submitted to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, or you're not. Like, yes, there's grace. Yes, there's the grace that makes me want to cry almost every time, because I'm so undeserving of the things that I've got, so undeserving of the privilege to have a second and third chance, right? Like, I know people that went back one time and never came back. That is why I ran from the things that God's called me to do, is because I didn't know if I could handle it. So we'll get into that later, but back to Ephesians 6, like, he equips us. He gives us the tools necessary to stay on the straight and narrow. So Ephesians 6 really is the playbook, right? It tells you the things like the helmet of salvation, right? Like what governs everything is your thought life. And if we use the word to wash our mind, like Romans talks about, to be renewing of the mind, that's the helmet of salvation, right? To be renewed in your mind, put on the breastplate of righteousness. I want, of all things, because I don't want to rule over me anymore. Like, I want Christ to rule over me, and he gives me the breastplate of righteousness, not because I'm good,
right?
Not there's anything good in me. It's from what Jesus did. It's his blood makes me righteous. It's his forgiveness that purifies me. So I put on that. It's a choice. It's like clothes. I can either put on the old Nate every morning, or I can do my best to put on the new. And every morning, I get up early in the morning. I work early. Before I leave the bed, it's, God, I put on the helmet of salvation. Like, I want you to rule my mind. And I heard a profound quote. It was God, get in my head before I do.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't, if I tag it, I don't know who said it.
Right.
It blew my mind.
Wow.
And I'm like, how real is that?
Oh my
Get in my head before I do.
Oh my gosh.
By nature, the flesh wants to rule, right?
Yep.
So Lord, take over the throne of my heart.
Yes.
I put on the breastplate of righteousness. Lord, I lace up the belt of truth. The truth that you speak over me, and the truth that's in your word that I stand on. Now, Lord, I put on the shoes of the gospel of peace. Lord, you're my foundation. You're my rock. Everything that I do, think, or say, Lord, I want it to be governed by you, and I want it to be in line with your word. So I stand on the foundation of the word. But it's a twofold thing, because then the word is also the sword, right? It says the word is living and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and spirit and joint and marrow. That's life. You got to think, man. The Bible, we've kind of dumbed it down over the years, right? It was like, oh, it's a book. Like, that's a 66 book love letter written from the person who spoke the stars into existence, specifically for you.
My faith journey, it's been quite the journey the last 4 years. I'll just say that. And I finally, I was very Jesus adverse when I first got into church. And there's many reasons. At the root of it, it's this idea that Christianity is the one and only way. You have to be saved in order to go to heaven, like that sort of thing. And there's still things that I'm in process and working through with that. But the point is, I kept my heart open and I continued to return to church and I continued to put myself in those places and I let God continue to work in me. I didn't shut myself off to it. And that was so, so key because now today there is so much still that I'm learning and in process with. But the Bible in the last 6 months, because I've really started digging into the word the last 6 months, really on my own, not just going and hearing it. For a long time, it was just, okay, I'm going to learn this at church. I'm just going to hear and learn. And that was great because the pastor breaks it down, which I need because the Bible is hard to understand.
It can get
right?
wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, I've learned what I do now when I'm in the word. If there's something that I'm not sure, I put it in ChatGPT and I say, break this down for me.
That's awesome.
It has helped me. So if you're new to the Bible,
I love it.
It breaks it down for me when there's things that I'm I just don't quite understand this. And ChatGPT, it's scary and amazing all at the same time. But anyway, there is literally, I'm having a hard time putting into words. I've just been feeling it in my heart, how impactful the Bible is and the word and the wisdom.
Yep.
And it truly is a book to live by. It is and I think it is the light, the truth, the way. That is being revealed to me the more I dig into it. So anyway, I just had to say that because, I'm sure there's people listening who are from all different backgrounds, faiths, whatever. But I can genuinely say I've kept my heart open to Jesus specifically. And I'm learning Christ is the healer.
Yes, ma'am.
I have come to find
Absolutely.
that on my own, very stubbornly. Anybody who knows my faith journey deeply knows that. Yeah. And
I think that is the most authentic expressions is when you are the thick-headed mule. God, I'm the mule that you have to beat over the head to plow the field, honestly. If you ask my wife, she'll be like, oh, goodness gracious. And I'm like, no, you're the stubborn one. She's like, oh, you seen yourself? I'm like, hi, pop, meat, kettle, And I think that is the rawest expression, though, is the one that's is fought for. For me, I've always said it too, right? There's a huge difference than going to church because your parents did or your friends did. There's a huge difference between that and then experiencing the person of Jesus.
Yes.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
One's a doctrine. Doctrine's good. You can't just be off in left field, right?
Sure.
Like that. You take one scripture and you take it out of context, and before you know it, you have a cult. Because you can get the word to say whatever you wanted to say, but if you're missing the context of who it was written for, who and what it was written for, and who wrote it, and the contextual scheme of what it was written for, then you miss the depth of the word.
That's what I think about the news and all this.
Oh my goodness!
You take something and you can totally spin it.
Yep. Yeah. Or even something. I can take a fragment of one of your podcasts and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is nuts." But it's not. You have to look at the whole context. And
totally.
When it's hard fought like that to me, that's who I want. That's who I want to sit with. And I love everyone on a different faith journey, because I was this cherry picked from Eastern mysticism to I fill in the blank, bro. I mean, straight up a cult at one point, I don't even know. This is crazy, but being open is everything, because Jesus says he's going to meet you where he's at. He does not call you, hey, get perfect and then come to me. He says, follow me, watch me do, watch me say, watch me. And then you're said, okay, Jesus, even when I was fresh clean, I was like, God, I didn't know who you are. Jesus, you're the only reason why I'm alive, because I cried out to this person, Jesus, whoever he is. But now I know, okay, I'm not dead. So that's a step in the right direction. I'm going to try to validate this. And then I'm like, here's something from a pastor. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to find out if you're wrong. That was my mindset. I'm going to prove you wrong. And I set out to hear something. I'm like, is that right? So First John talks about testing everything. I didn't even know I was doing it biblically. Like, right. Like that's what he says. He's like, you hear something, test it, because the Holy Spirit will always confirm truth, which is why if something peaks in you, you're like, head tilt, explore that. Because there's something in you that didn't resonate. And if that means, okay, something in me is like, you said something that kind of threw a little bit of a flag, that means either what you said's off base or what I believe's off base. Right. And the Holy Spirit is going to confirm it. So I love talking. Like I could talk all day about the person of Jesus, because that was when everything changed for me. Like I met Jesus. I was saved by him. But then I tried to do everything my own. Not a knock to AA. I mean, I know people who absolutely have come to know Christ and sold out and are still sober today through the program of AA. For me, like I met this one dude, I don't remember his name, but he was like, I've been sober 5,962 days and it's hard. And I remember being like, what a horrible way to live. Like I'm counting the days of struggle. I'm like, this can't be what sober is. If sober's this, take me home. Like I'm out. Cut sling load, I'm gone. And it was like, there has to be something different. And I was doing the whole A thing. I was clean 74 days. And then the second overdose happened. And I woke up that next day. I mean, I was, like, Jesus, I don't know who you are, but I come against you in the name of the Lord, like talking right to like to the darkness. I mean, I was like seeing things, I was experiencing things. I mean, really angels and principalities of heaven and light and darkness they're very real, very taboo thing to even talk about in the church. Cause they're like, well, it's not like new person friendly. Like it doesn't tickle like the seats, right? Like the people who are paving the tide, but like the reality is, there's a very real war going on, and the souls God's people are in the balance. And I woke up. It was like I was sitting at a poker table of life, and I was just like, God, I don't know who you are entirely. I know that I'm 2 overdoses in now, and clearly my judgment, and this is what I get. This is the culmination of everything that I've ever done in my whole life is being as a drug addict, alcoholic who's got 2 overdoses. I remember sitting at this, like, I hadn't even opened my eyes yet.
How old are you at this point?
At this point, it was 2007, 2008. So I was 19, 18.
Okay.
18.
So you're going through all this as a teenager.
I was a
heavy. I
was a stone cold alcoholic in high school. Okay. I was like drinking beer to stop shaking to go to class senior year.
Okay. So
all of this was in the midst of a completely undeveloped prefrontal cortex, like the pressures of what it is to even be a kid in a modern school system, like all of these things. It was like a perfect storm of just everything to literally kill me. Like, I mean, in this whole time, right? Like you've got like a suicidal ideations, like I'm better off with, the world's better off, a better place without me. So,
And what is the enemy here to do? Steal, kill, and destroy.
100%. And the only way that he can do that is when us give him legal right to do it. So he was absolutely trying to undercut me at the knee before I even got off the ground. And I woke up that next day. It was May 29th, 2008 is when I overdosed. And I remember waking, before I even opened up my eyes, I knew I was awake. May 30th, I was like at this poker table of life. And I just said, I threw all my chips in. I said, God, wherever you want me to go, I'll go. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Here I am, send me. I'm available. I want what you have for me, and I want nothing else.
Surrender.
Absolute surrender. So salvation and surrender are 2 things.
Totally.
And that was the day I was like, God, I'm all in. Wherever you want me to go, I'll go. And that was just kind of the whole start of everything, really. And yeah, I joke all the time. Like I was the kid that like, they couldn't get to leave church. Like there was nothing going on, but I was there. Like, women's knitting ministry, if it was there, I was there. You know what I mean? Like these ladies fed me, you know what I mean? Like I'm about it, like I'm for it. Like whatever time, like you need me to help you move tables. Fantastic. I have a set of arms. I can, whatever you want me to do. And, I was just there because I knew there was safe. I was serving, and I was outside of myself because these hands, like idle hands is the devil's playground, right? Like, especially for alcoholics and addicts, right? Like, any free time, like, we like to self-sabotage and implode, and that war going on of all the lies that we've believed in over our life. And I knew any idle time was bad time. So I was just at the church. I was like, let me help. It's like, okay, well, we have a ladies event tonight. Fantastic. What do you need? She's like, you're not a lady. I'm like, I can move tables, whatever you want. And this whole time, you know, come to find out later on, the lady who really sparked this whole recovery pursuit of like what recovery, so like treatment center sort of thing, she was the lady who led the prayer group that was praying for me for the years prior to my first overdose. She knew who I was and she was interceding. Her name is Pat Schisler. Incredible woman. Her first husband passed away from pancreatic cancer years and years and years ago, but they helped found a ministry in Southern California called Calvary Ranch.
Oh, I feel like I've heard of that.
Calvary, it was there for almost, I think it was like 42 years before they shut their doors. So they're no longer around, but Pastor Tom and Sister Paulette McAloon were incredible. But she was there at like right out of the Jesus movement in Southern California, right? The tent revivals, the, you know, Jesus revolution. Like, that was a direct outcome of this hardened Marine that God radically got a hold of. And he bought this little 9-acre plot of land in Lakeside, California, which is like in the middle of, like, there's more horses than there are people. It's just in the country of Southern California, and started this whole process. But she was the first person in the lobby of the hospital praying for me the first overdose. She left what she was doing, everything, dropped what she was doing to come intercede for my soul in the lobby of Chandler Regional Hospital. And I was at this point serving youth ministry, and we were getting ready to take, I think it was like 48 kids to a youth convention, which is chaos if you've ever been around youth ministry at all.
Right.
Anything over 10 is just wild. And it was just this whole room full of crazy yelling teenagers that were super excited. And this lady, Pat, comes over to me and she goes, "Hey, just think about this. 1 year commitment. They're not going to pay you, but they'll give you ministry experience. It's in California. It's a rehab ministry. I was praying for it. Your name got put on my heart. Just think about it." As we're getting, a room full of teenagers screaming behind me. And I'm just like, that's the last thing I'm thinking about. I'm like, okay, Pat, love you so much. Gave her a hug. That was it. Stored in the back of my mind. I was like, I'm just trying to get these kids home alive at this point, you know? This was at, it's Dream City Church now, but it was Phoenix First. It was Giant Church. We were there. It was a great time. It was like their farewell, service. And this guy's name is Pastor Sean Hennessy. He comes out, iPad. He's just kind of looking around, closes his iPad, puts it on the table. He's like, "Yeah, Holy Spirit's not going to let me preach that message." He goes, "Okay, we're going to do something different." I said, "How many people in this room are missionaries or missionary assistants?" A bunch of people raise their hand. Okay. "How many are thinking about missions?" Like, okay. She's like, "Okay, there's someone in this room." At this point, we're at the upper floor to the right of the stage. He's looking around. "There's someone in this room that needs to hear this. Who can donate 1 year of your life to go wherever God wants you to go, to do whatever God wants you to do, completely sacrificial, donate 1 year." Immediately, Pat's voice is in my head. 1 year commitment. Calvary Ranch, Lakeside. My hand's the first one up. Calls all the people down, has all the missionaries and retired missionaries pray over the people, and commissions these kids. There was a bunch of kids, and I was like one of a few leaders that were down there, commissioned them to go wherever God, like, follow the call.
Wow.
And I was in the middle of a semester of school, and I left 2 weeks early before finals because God said it was go. And I was like, "God, I told you wherever you want me to go, I'll go." It was like, boom, I packed up my little 1/4-ton pickup truck. Well, I flew out there, went on the program. Me being thick-headed, I said, "This is dumb. I'm already sober. I don't need this. This is stupid," right? Like, we call them Calvary lines, and they had to rake lines literally for just an aesthetic line in dirt to make the people that were coming to the church like feel like there was an intentionality behind it. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, I don't need any part of this. I've been sober 8 months. I don't need this. I don't need a program. I'm out. So I throw my rake down, a little temper tantrum, 18, 19-year-old kid. I throw it down. I'm fussing. I'm like cussing at God. This is dumb. I don't need this. Blah, 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 whatever. Sun was setting. Church was getting ready to happen. I throw my rake down. Like, this is dumb. I'm going up there. And I'm telling him, book me a flight home. I don't need this. It's like, God, you're going to have to hit me square in the face to get me to stay here. I turn around, step on that rake, square in the face. I almost knocked myself out. Almost clean out.
Man.
I was just like, that's the last time
God
I ever
never ceases to amaze me.
I said, that's the last time I ever say
Wow.
some stuff like that. So long story short, packed up my truck and moved out there, man. It was all happened. It all happened. I mean, I left the program December of 2008 and I was back full-time ministry by January 14th.
Wow.
I didn't know a single person in San Diego County. Like I just showed up, packed my truck and came out. Like they just provided food and housing. And by the end of that whole thing, it was like a year. So I ended up being a little over a year. So a year and a quarter, probably like year and 4 months or so. And they had got me they had paid for all my school. So I was a licensed substance abuse counselor.
Wow.
I was an ordained chaplain. Like they set me up. And in that whole process, when I got back to Phoenix, I ran away from it. I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Okay. So what happens from there? So you spend the year doing that.
Yeah.
So was that, following that calling, did it feel right for you?
It was absolutely ludicrous by every fiber of my logical being was like, this is crazy. You have no purpose, no reason. Like why you're like, this is wild. I don't know anyone there. No, like I had never lived away from home at that point. Like I'd always been home. I was gone for many days at a time, but like I was like,
sure. So if
still
you would have
there.
let the human mind lead,
I would not have
you'd never
gone. I mean, because I was the only semester of school that I was ever doing well in. I left 2 weeks early on. I didn't even take the finals. There goes like however much money back then was, a full semester's load of school. Like I was getting A's and B's. I had like never done that prior. Like I think I started 3 semesters of school before that. And I like have 1 credit to show for it.
Yeah.
Cause I was just too loaded, like to even go to class on time.
Right.
But by all logical sense, I should not have gone. But it was like one of this thing I could, as soon as I said, God, you're going to have to hit me in the face.
And then it happened.
And he smacked me. It was probably one of the hardest I've been in some fights. Like that was the hardest I've ever been hit in the face. And it was like this moment of like absolute serene clarity where like I could draw a picture of how the sun's rays were shining through the dust, through the trees. Like it was this divine moment of you're where you need to be. And from then on, it was like, and also grew up in Phoenix, right? Like I wasn't around, sure. Like I had I equity in like I've ridden a horse like 3 times in my life, but like I fed some pigs and some cows and took care of them during the summers. I went back to North Carolina, but like a city boy on a ranch, like literally like I was just a dude, like the definition of a dude, like a guy that was on a ranch for no reason. And there we go. It was like, okay, God, hear him out. Like, let's do this. So I was like self-taught on how to like care for horses and take care of pigs and cows. And side note, cows can kick in 360 degrees. You don't realize that until you get kicked in the back of the leg by one. So it was.
So what came from that experience?
Everything. Everything. I mean, I attribute the depth of spiritual growth that like I still rely on things that I learned at the ranch in San Diego today. Just spiritual principles.
So when you do what God says,
yes,
when
ma'am.
You get in that place of surrender, it leads you exactly where you need to go, and it will totally transform your life.
100%. They're absolute transformation. And I really kind of equate it to like a baby bird, like being pushed out of your nest. Like, yeah, it might be uncomfortable and it's scary, but God always, like, even if you fall, where are you going to fall? You're going to fall into his hand. Like he doesn't allow things. Yeah, it might feel like your world's falling apart, but you don't see what's on the other side of
he sees what we can't see.
100%. And even when your life feels like it's shattered, he's the king of a mosaic, right? Like he stitches you back together. You look at these stained glass windows in these churches, like they're shards of broken glass that were put together by a very intelligent designer. And that's dumbing down even who God is. God's the creator of everything. So even he can take a handful of broken pieces, he can make the greatest mosaic you've ever seen. So anyone that feels like their world's a shattered mess, don't close off to who Jesus is, because he's the one that can put it back together better than you ever had it.
Mm.
And going there,
Yeah.
I was really pushed into a place where I had to rely completely on him.
Mm.
I mean, down to like how I was going to put gas in my truck. Like it was like love offerings every now and then. Like, here's $60. Here's this, like, you know, explore San Diego. And from that, like God's brought, I call them family now. They adopted me, really, honestly. There was a guy that came to the program. His name was Colin Putris. The Putris family adopted me 100%. Like she was like, her son's in the program. She's like, you ever been to the San Diego Zoo? I'm like, no. She's like, come to my house on Thursday at 9. I'll take you. So it was like, I just never stopped showing up. So now they're family. Like, you know, I call her my sister, Shelby. She was just out here like 2 weeks ago. Like lifelong things, like God stitches together out of a choice that I couldn't have even seen.
Yeah. You wouldn't have made that choice on your own.
And then I would have been missing. Like his name's John Putris. So I call him Papa P. He was a father figure to me when I didn't even know what a father figure was. And in that restoration, reconciliation with my own dad, I text him, he's like, hey, my boy, how are you? So God, even my dad's in heaven now, but I still have a father here on earth, you know, and I wouldn't have had that if I didn't absolutely surrender what God was asking me to do. And never have I ever had the privilege of unadulterated, uncompromising time with God. I was literally in this 9-acre ranch in the middle of nowhere, Southern California, with a bunch of people that, I mean, it was the embodiment of Acts chapter 2, honestly. I mean, my wife hates it. She's going to be so mad I say this, but a bunch of misfits and rejects about the societal terms and conditions, right? The most just dysfunctional group, but like totally put together. Like the staff wise, like, I mean, I could slap the guy that slept next to me, like in the bunkhouse and that level of commitment, community, like that's brotherhood. Like that, like you're in the trenches with these people. I mean, there was friction. His name was Jackson Brown. We were like gasoline and oil, man. Like that's how you make a machine go, right? Like he was all fire, like, let's get these things done. And I was like, I was the oil. Like together we were like this, but there was friction, and it was like, this is how you handle conflict. So there's like the older senior saints, right? The seasoned saints, as we call them. He would pull us aside and like, you guys are fighting. Come on, we're going to pray. Link hands. So we're like praying for each other, like really angrily. And by the end, right? Like it was like, God, you're weeping because you're like, really like, God, I want the best for this man. And he wants the best for me. And it was those moments that I wouldn't trade for the world. Like I had time with just Jesus. Like it was no distraction.
Yeah.
There was not the chaos of the world. My phone worked some of the time. Like it was me and him. And I got to like, after the church would go home, like I had keys to the place. So like I would just go into the auditorium, into it's a sanctuary. It was a little tiny room. And I would sit on the altar right before the cross in the back with a crown of thorns that Pat's first husband made in the bathtub up there. And I would sit there and I would just cry, weep, just spend time with Jesus. But it wasn't like my heart's broken. It was like, God, who am I that you know me? Who am I that like you've given me this opportunity? And it was those moments that like, that's the nearness to Jesus, what that I like cleave to, even in the busyness of the world, right? Like we've got 3 kids. Our life is chaos. There's, practices in 3 different cities all 3 times on the same day, right? Like it's just life's life and sometimes, but that's the moment at the stillness with Jesus that I go back to every day. So in the moments of surrender to where Jesus is, he's going to teach you things that only you know. But it says those who know me will hear my voice, right?
Totally.
So everyone's voice is different, which is why we need this interaction, right? Like what God's taught you, it wasn't for you to just hold on to. It's for you to teach me. And what God's gone through, what I've gone through, and what God's taught me through the chaos of my life, I can hand to you. There was not this. That's why God says to bear one another's burdens is to fulfill the law of Christ. Like that's the way God designed it. We need each other.
I mean, literally, as I'm sitting here listening to you talk, I literally had a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm learning so much. And even questioning, because I told you I'm in process with certain things as we speak, still with church and Christ and the Bible and all these things. And I don't know, I'm hearing you talk and I'm hearing God, like I'm feeling God working through me as you're talking, of like some one of the things I'm hung up on right now, maybe hung up's not the right word. I know many people who have like church hurt, right? Just specifically speaking, and this isn't to like, not bashing or anything, but like they were in the Mormon faith. And they felt very shamed and ended up stepping away from that because it was not God working his way to them. It's them working their way to God, earning that, right? And so, and there is so much goodness, I think, to all of it. So I'm not bashing any of that. But my point is, I know people where Jesus ended up becoming their trauma through their religion.
Absolutely.
And so one thing that God has really put on my heart, specifically Jesus, is that Jesus came to be in relationship with people, to save people, to help people, not to start a religion.
Yep.
And so when you said like that whole like doctrine thing, like, yes, we do need the truth of Jesus to like light our way in our path because of this warfare. So like, I hear everything you're saying with that. And so where I am at currently and what I have been sharing with the world is that you don't necessarily have to be in religion, even Christianity, to know Jesus. Like where I'm at currently with what I feel God is wanting me to talk about is to just get people to know Jesus, even if whether it's within Christianity or outside Christianity. So anyway, but as you're talking, my point is I'm like, yeah, God wants me to dive deeper though into, because I can honestly say I still don't struggle that Christianity is the one and only way. I still wrestle with, I need a savior, like that if I don't, that you go to hell. Like I'm still wrestling with that. Yeah. Okay. And so I don't know, I feel God's wanting me to dig deeper into that. And so anyway, literally as we're having this exchange, nobody else already said me, like I say this all the time. I learn so much from the people I sit across in these.
100%.
Like I feel God working in me.
I love that.
As people are talking to me. So
I love that. And I mean, you're right on the money, right? Like Jesus, I mean, even the first century church, right? Like Christians wasn't a term you put yourself. Their life reflected Jesus so much that they were labeled a Christian. You resemble Jesus so much that you look like him. So I'm going to call you a Christ-like. You're Christ-like. You're a Christ-like-ian. That's different. Say, oh, I'm just a Christian. Does who I am reflect who Jesus is? But it all comes back to being open from the beginning. Jesus doesn't ask you to be perfect. Yeah. He says, come as you are. And even in that process, right? Like you're unpacking and you're walking with Jesus and you're doing these things, even if you don't have a church yet, or you don't even, which is, I mean, God's really.
Or you're hurt by the church that you were at. And it's not just, I mean, I specifically said Mormon, but there's Catholicism. I mean, there's Southern Baptist. I mean, there's some where people have been really hurt in these places. And even the pastor of our church says all the time that there's a lot of churches haven't got it right. Absolutely. Yeah. And is a bunch of imperfect people coming together, doing hopefully the best they can to honor Christ, but they're people. There's no, pedestal that you can put them on. Like even pastors are people. And once you start seeing that, like, yes, they're accountable to every word they say. And that's between them and the creator. That's between them and Jesus, man. And really that takes the burden off me of like having to I just release that's sorry, man. Like what you're saying is not right. And what you're doing is wrong. And I'm going to say this is what the Bible says, but that's between you and God. And God's going to deal with that person. So in this whole process, God's put us at a church called Legacy. And their whole fiber of their being is for the church hurt. It's for the over church, the under church, and the de-churched. There is so much church hurt because fill in the blank. Sure. But wherever you're at, the more time you spend with Jesus, the more you start to realize yes, there's freedom in him, and there's life, and there's joy, and there's reconciliation, there's transformation. The more your heart's restored and renewed, the more you start to realize man, I need people who are on the same path, because that's the way God designed it, right? So before you know it, if you open yourself up to Jesus completely and give him a fair shake, I'm going all in, because what's the worst that could come about it? Right. You spend a year of your life and you have amazing friends and you've become a better person. And I can guarantee you, if you spend a year of your life really opening your heart to Jesus, your life will change.
100%.
I can guarantee.
You'll be a different human being.
Yeah. And 4 years ago, I would have said, absolutely no way. I wouldn't have believed you, you know? Yep. And so I can genuinely say, you know, as a big skeptic, Jesus is life-changing.
And for me to be able to even sit here, like I'm a 100% on borrowed time. Like I should, by all intents and purposes, should have died a statistic. I should have been a statistic.
That hits deep because, as you know, we lost our son to fentanyl. And, you know, he didn't have this crazy long history with drugs and this big story. I mean, even what you were describing, he didn't have, not even half of that, right? Like he definitely did some pretty typical teenage experimentation with drugs and alcohol, which I'm not saying that's right, but I always say like that's what teens do. But he was a competitive gymnast all the way up until his junior, going into his junior year of high school. So he was 16. And that really kept him on the straight and narrow. And he didn't start dabbling, to our knowledge, with marijuana until about freshman year of high school. And it was dabbling because he was so into gymnastics And so did he have the tendencies? For sure. And that was my concern with him quitting gymnastics. But my point is, we did not have this long road with him where he was getting into all this trouble, smoking tons of weed. He never drank. I mean, he wasn't a drinker, like, you know what I'm saying? And so it really was a year time frame with him where it hit hard. Yeah. And it started with marijuana and went from there hard in a year. And so, you know, he lost his life to that. And so I hear you say that. And then I think, but instantly, like as we're having this conversation, what God put on my heart as I was writing my book about this is that, again, there's so much beyond our human comprehension that we don't understand, and God sees what we can't see. I know that very intimately. And what I learned through this process is that even though some people, quote unquote, lose their battle to these things, God told me the battle was never lost, because through that, I was saved. Like I found Jesus. Like I don't know if I would have, God reached me so hard right before Alex passed away. Like, I mean, pulled out all the stops to get me. And I don't think I would be sitting where I am today had I not walked that experience. And so my point is, like, yeah, it looks like the battle was lost, but it wasn't. He's still mending and molding and restoring and saving, you know?
Yeah. And I think too, even as you were speaking, it's like realizing that like, that's the worst thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
There was an equal and opposite reaction of the best thing that ever happened with you, right? Like with Christ.
Right.
And it's like knowing that he's on streets of gold, man. Like when we switch the mindset from like this finite flesh suit with limited time, and you start thinking about this is just a momentary mist that we get to experience, and on the other side of this is eternal. Right. Like this, it's not just the ether. Like there's heavens. Like there's the eternal heaven, and it's like knowing that the worst thing you ever produced, you walking into your inheritance, where then you're going to be met for eternity. And that whole, I struggled really bad because there was this gentleman on the program. He had just turned 18 from Orange County, and I saw Jesus get a hold of this kid's life, and I was like, man, this kid is incredible. And he was all in. I said, hey, like, take it easy. Like, don't get into a relationship. Don't, like, just, you need a year. Give yourself a year. And he goes back to Orange County, gets involved in a relationship. The relationship ends. He is heartbroken. He's hanging out with his people. He struggled with heroin. Went back, took the same amount of heroin that he did before he quit, took a hot shot and died.
Yeah.
And I will never forget the pain that was in his mom's face when she came back, drove down from Orange County to tell us, like, hey, thank you for all you've done. Because in that process, Brian passed away, but his brother Brett was saved. Like they almost look identical, but they were 2 years apart. In this whole process, she came back down and said, thank you guys for doing what you do. And I know that God got a hold of Brian, but Brett is now clean. And thank you for doing, but it was the pain of realizing like she just lost her son, but she was in tune enough with the Holy Spirit to see that there was an eternal ramification. Like, yes, God got a hold, he's in heaven. Now, had this whole thing not his brother wouldn't, and it was like, I was weeping because like I wasn't there. Like I can attribute his passing as a huge reason why I ran away from recovery. I said, my heart can't do it. I can't lose people like this, God, I'm done. Like I came back, like I could have taken a seat as a substance abuse counselor. And I said, I'm done. I'm done with recovery. God, I don't want any part of it. I'm done. I can't do it. And I walked away. So I came back, got busy with ministry, but I walked away from recovery. The whole clinical side I walked away from. Like I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. I want to get there because I want to hear because your journey eventually takes you there, right? I want to say though, because God is putting it on my heart as real time as we're having this conversation. And this is just authentic talk. This is what we do here. One of the reasons I'm still in process with, accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, to be saved, to go to heaven, is because Alex didn't know Jesus. He wasn't a believer. And so that was when God was really reaching me, and none of it made sense. I don't know how I ended up in church, how I ended up in this. None of it made sense. One thing, I guess, that I've always been, is a good thing is I've kept my heart open. And so I at least was open and just following the path, even though I didn't, really know why. And at that point, I wasn't attributing it to God, but that was something that I struggled with, was like, you're telling me this is the one and only way, and you have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior to be saved, to go to heaven, right? And I'm like, Alex didn't know Jesus. But there's not one day, not one day that I have questioned that Alex is in heaven. Like not one, because God has revealed so much to me. Do you have something to say to that? Yeah. I just feel like we need to say this because there's people out there who have walked the same journey, right? Okay, I want to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because in this process, I will tell you this. The human mind functions 7 minutes after your heart stops functioning. You're cognitively there for 7 minutes. You have until the last firing synapse. I don't know what happens after, right? God, I was almost there. And in that moment, God gave me an ultimatum, right? So I was asphyxiating. I could not breathe. I was dying. And I was being pulled down a spiral staircase by all these eager hands to a point where I felt I stopped. And I felt God say, choose today whom you're going to serve. Wow. This is the culmination of everything you've ever led to, is this moment. However it goes from here, you choose today whom you serve. So I can tell you this.
That was your near-death experience.
You
just said that and it just hit me now as you explained it.
So I'm going to say this. There's going to be a lot more people in heaven than you think you are. Because God is a God of mercy and grace. And he never stops pursuing. He never stops calling. He never stops chasing. Look at Jesus. He illustrates it. He leaves the 99 to search for the one. So I will tell you this. I guarantee you there was options. There is grace upon grace and mercy upon mercy. And like you said, there's not a day that you don't doubt. But I will tell you this, that beyond all logic and reason, there will be an exponential amount of people who we thought would never make it to heaven in heaven because of that moment when everything else is black. Nothing, you have come to the realization that you are gone. This is it. There is no more life after this moment. And God gives me an ultimatum saying, choose today whom you're going to serve. And I know for sure, had I died, my heart stopped working, my brain stopped firing. In that moment, I said, Jesus, I'm all yours. That was it. That was the ticket. That was him saying, choose today. Because ultimately, he's not going to force anything. But at that moment, I had a choice. Nothing else was there. I had no one to cleave to, no one to talk me in or out of. It was me and the Creator. I experienced what was to come had I chosen opposite.
I've had many people tell me this version of what you're saying, but it's never landed the way that it just landed when you said that. So thank you.
In the hand.
Truly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That just
The
hit in a totally different
mercy
spot.
of Jesus
Yeah.
is so far beyond you can ever fathom. It's reckless in pursuit. His love is reckless. It doesn't make sense.
Reckless
and not
love. I love that.
Not
song.
reckless in regard of
no.
He will pursue.
Yeah.
And I mean, He left me alive for a reason.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm here.
Well, let's go to that. Where has life taken you?
Fast forward, man, after all that mess, and I come home, and I honestly, when I was leaving San Diego, I had so many different directions to go. So like I had met like in a crazy, like God was all over it. Like people from all walks of life. There was a guy that was like, hey, I need an assistant in Morocco. Move with me to Morocco. I'll pay for your school. Everything that you need, I will pay for. Move with me to Morocco. I'm like, okay, Morocco. And I was like looking, I'm like, okay, 1% Christian and they're persecuted. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. What are my options here? Because I didn't feel God say to move, because I would have gone in a second. This other guy had started self-replicating house churches that started in Ocean Beach, but were really boots on the ground, like prophetic, like witnessing out on the street, like calling people to life. And I'm like, he's like, be a house pastor. Move to Ocean Beach. I'll pay for your house. I'm like, fantastic. And then another guy was running sober living house out of Pacific Beach. He's like, manage my house. I'm like, he's like, help me do church on the sand. Cause I don't know if they still do it, but it was One Way Ministries. His name was Pastor Rick. He would set up a tent right in Pacific Beach, San Diego, every Sunday, set up a tent and have church on the sand. Like you could catch a wave, come in, drop your board down and listen to church. And he was a very loud person. I mean, he didn't need a PA. He was like soapbox preaching and it was incredible. He's like, manage my sober living house. I'm like, this is crazy. And I felt God say, go home. I'm like, okay, cool. I thought I was going to be here for 2 weeks. I was like, this is great. Like fast forward 17 years and a whole lot of life and a whole lot of heartbreak and all this other stuff in the process. God got me to a place where I was finally open because I was so hardened to say like, yeah, I'm done with recovery. Like I actively like evaded what I was supposed to be doing for 15 years. It was probably closer to 16 now, but I was just running. I said, God, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to put my heart out there. I'm not going to do it. I was adamant. And everything I did, like I was always serving God and like serving his church and doing the things, you know, and whether it was youth ministry or it was, you know, Sunday morning ministries, or it was, you know, leading junior high, or it was leading safety teams, whatever. I was serving him, but I wasn't doing what he was asking me to do. I was running. So I started working at a nonprofit. It's called Survivors of War. It was, you know, Shannon Dunnigan, incredible. Really taught me how to rely on, I went down at my day job to part-time so I could work at this nonprofit, like back into the full-time ministry sort of vibe. Cause I was like, I'm done with that too. Like you can take it. I don't want it. Full-time ministry. You can miss me with it. I'm not going to do it. Recovery, not going to do it. So I'm like, got linked up with this, you know, it was a veteran specific nonprofit and like, you know, alternative forms of therapy and doing some awesome things really in the veteran community. And I'm like, I'm all in. I heard his heart. I was the one that broke the veteran serving in my family for like hundreds of years. I was the one that broke that legacy of service members. And so I heard his heart and what he went through. His story is incredible. I can't even sum it up, but God got a hold of him. He's serving in the ministry to our veterans. And I said, I'm all in. I want to go in, like, however I can serve you in your ministry, I submit to you. It had nothing to do with recovery at all. I say, I'm all in. I start serving. Next thing you know, there's a dude that's like struggling with addiction. I'm like, okay, like he's just in our men's group and now I can pour into him. And before you know it, the direction entirely shifts. There's an opportunity to run outpatient treatment houses for clinics, like rehab clinics, that now I'm in charge of running these houses with a bunch of people that are in rehab. And I'm like, God, you are hilarious. Like this, I told you I wasn't going to do it. And now I'm managing the housing for people in recovery homes. And like, this is insanity. I'm like, I'm still not going to do it. Like, this is just part of the job because I'm serving this nonprofit. And fast forward,
The hard heads always remain.
I'm telling you, 100%. I'm the thick-headed mule. So some circumstances happen where I had to take a step back, and I really felt God say, like, "Are you done running?" At this point, like, I'm like, okay. I have found myself ministering in the homes more than I thought I was going to. Like, you know, just what comes with, you know, the wild and crazy, right? Like, I'm getting called to one of the houses at 2:00 in the morning because someone showed up drunk and they're punching holes in the wall, threatening other clients. So I had to come, and I'm ministering to people. And it was just like, I found God just kept putting me in positions where I was ministering my story to people that were in recovery. And I finally heard him say, like, "Are you done running? Are you going to do what I'm asking you to do, or do I need to find someone else to do it?" And I was like, that poker table of life, man, that popped in my head. Is it? You said you were going to do what I want you to do. And it was this moment of like, fine, God, like, fine. Like pouting little boy, right? Like, just fine, you know, take my toy and go home, you know. And I was like, all right, God, like, whatever this means. So I just happened to, like, the church that we were at, like, they were starting men's mentorship groups. And I was trying to sign up to, like, all the people I knew. And it was like, every time I logged on the thing, like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to register, and that the group would close. And okay, I'm this one, the group would close. And like, I'm like, there's 2 groups left, God. Like, what do you don't want me to do this thing? And he's like, this one. And he puts me in this mentorship group. So I didn't know a single person there. I was just kind of, hi, I'm Nate. You know, I don't know anyone. Like, we go to church together, but, and then we're talking about discovering your why, like the leadership from the leadership perspective, like discovering your why and leading appropriately. So I'm like, okay, God, that's kind of cool. Everyone could be a better leader, you know, still not like realizing God's like fashioning what he wants me to do underneath my eyes, right? Like right underneath my nose, he's like making all the cogs of this wheel work. And then all of a sudden I'm like sitting there kind of stunned, like not knowing if I needed to like take a second job, another job, figure it out, you know, like by the grace of God, like we had moved in with my mom. So like the financial burden was way less. So I could like explore what God was asking me to do. And I finally walk into the men's group, and I'm like, okay, God, like after one of the discovering your why, and I was really praying in that, like the week after that, and like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And he's like, you already know what I want you to do. Cause he talks to me like that. Cause like, you know, we're on that kind of level, you know, he's like, you already know what I want. Why are we having this conversation? Like, you already know what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, okay, God, what does that mean? And he's like, explore it. I'm like, okay, thanks for like the direction. Like, you just go in that way, general direction. I'm like, can you give me some steps here, man? Like, I'm struggling even to say yes. And he's like, that's the problem. I need you to be in. I need you to be in it. I'm like, all right, God. So I'm all in. So the next group that we had meeting in that time, it was a month in between. And I was like, right, okay, God, I hear you. I'm like, because I knew when I left San Diego that I was supposed to replicate a ranch style ministry in Arizona. And I was told him no. I mean, if I could put a middle finger in God's face, I would have put it in his face. And I said, I'm not going to do it. So I knew, I'm like, fine, God, I'm in. What does that even mean? So a ranch. So I'm like, all right, babe, this sounds crazy. I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, this is crazy, but I feel like, you know, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And she just looks at me, just nonchalant, as Amanda does, goes, oh, about time. And I looked at her, I was like, how long have you known? She's like, 4 years.
Wow.
Because she was in a house that we just walked into, and she had a vision of bunks in the house, and it was a rehab recovery house that I was running. And she never told me. She kept it for 4 years.
Wow.
4 years. So the power of a praying woman is a whole nother podcast. But
chills.
There's a reason why the female body can produce children. And the fervent, every move of God ever in the Bible was preceded by a fervent praying woman, because they don't know how to stop. God put something in their heart. You're gonna go to God with fervency until you see a breakthrough. That's what she did. So she was praying for me to fulfill the call that she had no idea about, that I had already told God no on. And she was interceding before the King that I would hear the voice that God put in my heart and to do what he asked me to do. So I said, babe, how about this? A ranch, rehab ranch. Because we had just managed the housing. Like, I know how to manage a rehab house now. God, funny thing, right? God uses all things for good. So I know how to manage a house at a state level. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I figured it out. And at one point we were
Every
running
step he's lining it up.
100%. We were running 15 houses at a time. We had like 240 clients. Like, I figured out how to manage housing. So I'm like, okay, God, that's funny. What does this mean? So I'm like, let's pray for a name. Let's pray for a name. I am praying, and I feel like, because we were messing with the idea of starting a marriage podcast called His Way Marriage Podcast, which will come down the way. Like, it's still going to be there. But so it was like His Way. And I was like, this is wild. So I'm like praying. And God woke her up at 3:00 in the morning. The night before, I was talking to her about it, and it said, His Way Ranch. So I said, all right, babe, this is crazy. Just hear me out. His Way Redemption Ranch. She looks at me and goes, who told you that? I'm like, what do you mean? Who told? The person in the back seat. It's me and you in the car, love. What do you like? That's what God told me to do. She's like, God woke me up at 3:00 in the morning yesterday. And I thought it was because we were talking about His Way marriage ministry, but was led into His Way Redemption Ranch, which is what we're in the infancy stages of birthing. And then so I walk into this mentorship group and I'm like, hey, does anyone know the difference between a 501c3 and a 508c1a? Like what tax code to use? And the guy leading the group kind of chuckles and goes, I have both. What do you want to know? I'm like, that's wild. So we sit down and eat. He links me up with his connection to figure out, he's like, to figure out what direction to go, a 501 or a 508. He's like, you need to go 508. Here's my connection, who I used. Sends me to him. He's like, yes, he confirms it. He's like, I'll take care of everything. This is just what we need to do. These are the next steps. I'm like, okay, this is crazy. So I go back and I tell him about it. And he's like, fantastic. And the next week that we were talking about the next step in the leadership was exactly in line with where we were at with the birthing process of the ranch. So it's been, and then it turns out that one of the guys in our group he sells real estate through a connection at church that Amanda has done events for. I just had mentioned, hey, be praying for this. Like we had made a logo and she's like, does that say ranch? I'm like, yeah, why? She's like, I need you to meet this couple. Meets this couple. They just bought 10-acre stables in Mesa that they're willing to allow us to come alongside once we're live to tend to their horses with our program guys, to come alongside to teach them what it means to care for something outside their self, which was profound to me, where there's something deeply spiritual about tending to horses and to lives. Like there's a reason why there's equine therapies, right? It's supernatural almost, where there's like 15,000 receptors in their body where they can feel how your muscles are moving. But they also calm. And it was like this, it was just crazy what God taught me.
Everything lining up.
So
and
I couldn't,
even down to the men's group he put you in,
which he was actively shutting every other group. Like it was like, I was literally laughing and Amanda's like, what's wrong? I said, every group I click on closes. She's like, well, you should probably register faster. I'm like, babe, I click on it, it goes away. I click on it, it goes away. And this one's open. And I'm like, it happened to be. So down to who was even in the group.
Yeah.
And it was now all these guys have come alongside and are like really birthing in there. So he's opened his entire network to me. I just got off the phone with him this morning. He walked me through getting the LLC and the EIN, which is now live. So we're in the process of really just pushing forward, being led by where God's leading, but he set the whole stage, man. And it's really just what God birthed 15 years ago that I was adamantly against, that I just said yes to, whatever ridiculousness this looks like. And it was like this moment, I felt him say, what's the worst that happens? That this thing fails? The only way it fails is if you don't learn a lesson. I can't lose. In this thing, either God takes this thing off and a legacy of life change comes from this ranch, or God teaches me a lesson that's going to rewrite my legacy for my kids. We can't lose. The beauty of what Jesus is and who he is just a yes will change the entire trajectory of an entire course of a bloodline of family. Because there's things that I've had to fight in my life that my dad didn't fight, that I don't want. It stops with me. I'm not passing this to my kids, and I'm not going to pass this down, and I'm going to allow my kids to see what a healthy man looks like. I want them to talk about me in my obituary as a man who was faithful to God. If that's the only thing that comes from my life, Absolutely. Because everything that comes from me into them and from them, they better have an example of what a God-fearing, Jesus-loving, Spirit-led man looks like. I'm going to do my best every day to do it. And how can I say that I was Spirit-led if I told God no to the one thing that he asked me to do? And it was like, even down to our youngest ones, like, Dad, does this mean we could like be around horses all the time? I'm like, yeah, but we're not going to own one. He's like, not yet. I'm like, okay, not yet. Because I want a ranch myself, like an actual ranch. But he's for it. Like, they get to see what a yes looks like in real time. Because like we talk about it. They're like, well, when's this going to be? Down even to a buddy of mine who closed down one of the houses that he was doing, donated all his beds to me, his bed frames, for the exact number of beds that the house that I'm looking at renting has.
I'm telling you, I've seen this time and time again. When you do what God says,
Absolutely.
When you sit with God every morning, even God get into my head before I do.
Yes, ma'am.
When you do all those things, what is meant for you comes.
Yeah.
Like, because our lives have a purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
And God knows, obviously. We don't, you know? And so that's why when we go to God with everything and we listen to God and we're faithful to God and we surrender our will, our human mind tendencies, that is when the path is made. And that's what you're describing. Like you're just describing that you finally have got to that point of just this total, honestly, this whole journey has been surrender every step of the way. And of course, being stubborn in our human tendencies and saying no, but look what's happening the more that you now continue to open and surrender and say yes. It is,
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
And it's like, the more I say yes and the more I'm like exploring, like we talked about at the beginning, there's no shortage.
No.
The crazy statistic is there's
so
50.2 million people who either struggle with mental health and or substance abuse.
Yes.
That's 2 out of 3 suffer with mental health, or 7 out of 10 in some way, shape, or form with substance abuse. Give me one. I said, God, if this whole thing fails, but I have one person that comes through my program that all of heaven celebrates over because they experience who Jesus is and the legacy after them is different, that's it. That's enough for me. Give me one. God, I pray it's thousands, but give me one.
Totally.
And because it's kind of daunting to even think about, like, okay, the buck's going to stop here.
Sure.
And I mean, I'm definitely going to send you like our vision and curriculum, our
yes,
core
please
values.
Because I will share it too in the notes and everything.
Absolutely.
Well, not that, but I mean, like, I'll share all your information in the notes.
And there's the campaigns live with Give Butter too.
Okay,
so
perfect.
We're actively raising funds and
Yep.
really just prayerful. But I saw that statistic and I just started weeping.
Yeah.
Like, God, there's so much brokenness that only an encounter with Him is going to create. So that's
exactly.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
Like in the midst of the brokenness, an encounter with Jesus, just like Peter in the storm, right? Like, it's no matter how big the waves look, the promise is your boat's not going to sink.
Yep. And imagine, I think I heard the stat 60 million people struggle at any given time, right? With addiction. And
it's probably more accurate.
Right. But if you consider that, so that's just the individual struggling, but then the people that it impacts, because addiction doesn't just impact you. I mean, look at what your mom went through probably, right? Through this whole thing. And then like your family, I mean, it impacts so many people around them. So we're talking, I mean,
countless.
Yeah. Like
hundreds
you can't
of
even, you can't even fathom, honestly.
Yeah.
I give this stat in my book about Jelly Roll did this, where just opioid related overdoses alone, just that alone, we lose 130 people a day. Like
that's wild.
It's wild. And if that's the equivalent of a 737 airline jet crashing every single day. Could you imagine if that was happening even 3 days in a row? I mean, that would be a national emergency. It would be crisis. They'd be grounding planes. They'd be coming up with a solution. You see what I'm saying? And this is just such a silent epidemic. And the answer, I full-heartedly can sit here and say, and when I say this, every time I speak this, I'm just so aware of me 4 years ago. And so I'm aware of the person listening that's like, we're just like, God, when you, like the me 4 years ago would have been like, oh, this is like too much. You know what I mean? So I'm always aware of that. But now that I'm sitting here in this seat 4 years later with my heart wide open, and God has done so much and Jesus has done so much in my life and my heart, I can truly, truly say that is the savior.
Mhm.
And that is the path to freedom. I can
Yeah.
truly say that. And I want to share this too. There was a YouTube video that I was listening to with, I think his name's Peter Scantinelli. He goes around and shares, like he goes and talks to people on the streets and he just gives real life accounts of stuff.
Yep.
And anyway, he was at the Phoenix Rescue Mission, and one of the ladies who works there now, who goes and does like outreach to the homeless, he was interviewing her and filming her doing outreach with the homeless. And at one point she was sharing her story and she said, you know, I had been in and out of services for years. And she goes, it wasn't until I found Jesus. She goes, Jesus was what turned it around for me.
Yep.
It wasn't all the services that I had been in and out of. So what you're doing with His Way Ranch, that's not just the services, which yes, the services are important, but you're putting Jesus in there.
Yeah.
And Jesus is the one that's going to save.
Yeah.
There is tons of services and treatment centers out there. So I just... Man,
Yep.
Nate, I feel like we need to do a part 2 because I think there's so much, and I would actually love to have you back as it goes a little bit further along,
absolutely.
and let's just share a little bit more of your story, because I feel like we could just go on and on and
Absolutely.
on forever. Like there is so much.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So in the show notes, I'm going to share all the information, but do you have a social media? Where can people find you?
Yep. So we do. So my personal is the Nate_Bates on Instagram, but the ministry is His Way Redemption Ranch. Just
Okay.
all lowercase. It's right there. So
Yeah.
we, as we start moving forward, we're going to be posting updates on there, just as far as as the traction's moving and whatnot, and really kind of just as we're unveiling our principles and values and all those different things, we'll go to the social media on the Instagram.
Okay.
On the
Yeah. Share
Instagram
them with
page,
me, and then we'll share all that in the
Absolutely.
notes, and we'll have you back because this was incredible. We need to have you back for part 2.
Absolutely.
So
It'd be a
thanks so
privilege.
much, Nate.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you.